welcome to Cashflow Savannah. Today we have a special guest, Marcel Sunday. Chandler, thoughts?
Marcel he's the best. He's like a really good teacher. He understands how to educate people, and that's just like I think is one of the best things that he can do because he's able to know what he's talking about, and then when he's educating the sellers, like he can just really get them comfortable and know exactly what they're getting into. So I just love listening to what he has to say.
He's really good at sales as well.
Yeah.
And I have to say, Marcel's one of the best I've ever come across at sales. And we've known him many years. It's easy for us to say that. But like, I get asked every day, I want off market deals. I want creative deals. I want. These are all things that Marcel specializes in. So if you're an investor and you're interested in creative deals, this is the episode for you. You do not want to miss this. We barely scratched the surface of what Marcel knows and does.
Yeah.
But I really think everyone's going to get a lot of value out of this.
Yeah, no doubt. And the thing about it too is like those guys that bring me off market deals, you're competing with Marcel Sunday, and nobody sees this either. That dude works ridiculously hard. Like he is one of the hardest workers too. So like coming around Savannah is not the easiest thing to get more like off market deals because you got to compete with guys like that. And there's multiple of them, but he's one of the hardest working.
He
And
is.
he knows it all. So
Well, the best thing about Marcel, and I can't say this enough either, is that he wants to work with other wholesalers. So if someone's trying to get into this market, he'll like just having a closer like him. I've seen him close deals that guys I knew had been working forever. And I said, hey, talk to Marcel Sunday. And Marcel finishes it off. And he earns, a little cut of that deal. That's worth
yeah.
it. Finding the deal is one thing and closing the deal is a whole other. So Marcel's just incredible on all levels. I just can't say enough good about him. So without further ado, we will bring in our special guest. Welcome to Cashflow Savannah, Marcel Sunday. What an honor to have such a superstar on our show today. How are you?
Good. It's an honor to be here. It's an honor to see you guys again. I'm excited to talk.
Sweet. I'm excited as well. I would say if you are a listener, get your notepad and pen out. I have mine. I will be taking notes. Marcel is one of the smartest people that I know in real estate and creative deal finding. So, yes, have your notepads and pens out because he spits some game. And what I love about him is he is a student of the game and just continues to learn more and more every day. So, thanks for coming on, Marcel.
Yes, sir.
And
Good to see
Marcel, I mean, we've been friends for a long time, but I just love that you always push me. And I know you're here to push our listener as well, right? Like you're not about yourself, you're about everyone. And I just can't say enough how excited I am to have you. It's just so exciting. So give us a little background. Tell our audience in case they don't know you, just give us a little insight to who you are and how you got here.
Yeah. So my name is Marcel Sunday. I'm originally from Frederick, Maryland, which is about 60 minutes away from DC. And yeah, I grew up in a smaller kind of town. And basically what got me into sales, real estate, business as a whole was ever since I was a kid, like 12, 13 years old. I was that kid selling candy in the bathrooms in high school and middle school, different things like that, selling shoes, all of that kind of stuff, because I just loved how I could buy something for $10 and then sell it for 20. I thought that was awesome. And my mom never really understood why I did it. But to me, I just thought it was cool because I had enough money to get extra cookies at lunch. So that's why I did it. And eventually it started to become something that I really enjoyed and loved. And, I have just a passion for sales and learning.
Sweet. So I kind of want to dive into that. You have a super cool story like in high school of how like you were making some pretty big bucks. Can you explain that story? That you're making some money in high school.
Yeah. Yeah. So to get into that a little bit, so I started a company called Supersonic Sale. And Supersonic Sale was basically kind of like a e-com company. So at the time, I was playing around with Shopify, Amazon, different things like that. And me and my buddy Io was really, really good at selling things online. I was good at selling things in person. So what I would do was I would go to the free section on Facebook Marketplace. And this is something that all of you guys can do. If you guys want to make 3 or 4 grand a month, what we did was we went to Facebook Marketplace, went to the free section and picked those stuff up. And what we did was we started to clean those different things, put it with better pictures, put it back up on Marketplace for a huge markup.
Mm-hmm.
So after a while, we started doing really well. We were making a couple $1,000s a month in high school when we were 14, 15 years old. And then Io came to me. He said, Marcel, we don't have enough stuff to sell, right? Because we're buying everything that's free on Marketplace. And unless we were going to drive 2 hours or 3 hours, it just wouldn't make sense for us to, have more inventory to sell. And so he goes, dude, why don't we just start selling other people's stuff? And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, okay, but what are we going to get when we sell other people's stuff? He's like, we can take a commission. So what we did was we created a company called Supersonic Sale. And basically everybody has a bunch of stuff in their house that they're like, if somebody offered me $30 for this, $20 for that, $10 for this, I'd sell it, but they don't want to do the work, right? So just like what I do in business right now, I help people when it comes to convenience and speed, right? Because a lot of the time people know that they can sell their stuff themselves, right? Just like a homeowner, they know that they can go to a real estate agent and sell it. They know that they can go post their house up on Zillow and sell it for sale by owner, but they want to work with us because of the convenience and speed. And so we did that with Supersonic Sale. And within 3 or 4 months, we were making like 10 grand a month at 16 years old. We were splitting that because we were partners. But yeah, it was a very cool business.
That's amazing. Knowing you, I'm really not surprised, but still like respect. That's amazing. That's amazing. So
Facebook Marketplace is the best.
Yes. I offload a lot on Facebook Marketplace, I have to say. Not at those numbers. So what brought you to real estate, Marcel? How did you flip from, I mean, you were clearly doing really well with your free 99 products. Like what got you to the next level?
So within Supersonic Sale, we started to realize that we weren't niched at all, right? We weren't niched, right? We weren't specific on what we wanted to sell. We sold a bunch of different things. We sold cars, electronics, furniture, clothes. We sold it all, right? And so it started to get confusing and a little bit difficult because we didn't always know our ideal customer. And so I started to realize, you know what? Well, first, actually, I read this book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad during the time we were running this Supersonic Sale business when I was 16 years old. I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and I'm trying to sell my business partner, Io, on, dude, let's get into real estate. Like, I know we're not 18 yet, but we should start selling real estate. I heard about this. I heard about that. We need to buy assets. Io goes off and decides to focus more on e-commerce. And this is when I start learning a little bit more about real estate. But at the time, being in high school, I was doing just like every other high schooler would do, right? I'm making money, but at the same time, I'm not as focused as I could have been. I'm partying with my friends and hanging out, all that kind of stuff. I graduated high school a year early at 17. And so that's when I realized I was like, okay, I'm in the real world now. So I ended up going to FCC, which is Frederick Community College. And I realized I'm like, okay, well, college is super easy. I have a bunch of time and I eventually want to get into real estate. Keep in mind, I'm still selling stuff on Facebook Marketplace, all that kind of stuff. But I wasn't all in. I wasn't all in yet when it came to real estate. And when I was 18, my father passed away. And so when he passed away, that's when I realized I was like, no matter what, I'm going to do whatever it takes to be able to retire my mom. So that was my why, to retire my mom. So I sat there for weeks and weeks on end trying to complete the real estate exam, as well as put together a plan on how I'm going to retire my mom within the next 10 years. And so that was basically my start when it came to real estate. So right after my dad passed away, I dropped out of college and I went all in.
Sweet. So I want to ask about like your plan to retire your mom. How did you set that plan up? Like, what was that like?
So first I had to reverse engineer, right? Just like any other kind of goal. What I did was I looked at my mom, right? I thought about her spending, the type of stuff that she likes to do, right? Because my mom, she spends, right? She's a spender. And so I'm like, what stuff does she like to do? And how do I make sure that she's able to do that stuff for the rest of her life without having to break her back and continue working? Right. My mom was in her 50s and it wasn't something that I wanted her to do the rest of her life. I made sure, and I still make sure that she's not going to be working within the next couple of years. And so I reverse engineered. What I did was I looked at the goal of $10,000 a month to my mom. If she's making $10,000 a month, she doesn't have to worry about her rent. She doesn't have to worry about her house payment. She's able to travel and buy whatever she wants. And so my goal is, okay, she needs $10,000 a month. So I need to be able to get to at least $10,000 a month in passive income to retire her.
Okay, cool. And has that plan changed at all? Like, is it kind of like, oh, this is harder than I thought, or has it changed?
So my goal is 10 years. So that would be when I'm 28. And
Okay.
I think I'll be able to do it within the next 2 years.
Okay. And how old are you now?
I'm 22.
22. All right. 2 years, you
Yeah.
said?
Yeah.
Sweet. Sweet.
It's a great goal, Marcel.
Thank you.
That is a great goal.
I'm so sorry about your daddy. I hate that happened. But good for you for taking that, really horrible thing and trying to take something good from it. I know that had to have been very difficult. I mean, most people would maybe drink or do something non-productive,
Yeah.
in a time like that. And you went actually the opposite way. I believe you've told me you locked yourself in your room with some books and just figured it out.
Yeah. And so at the time, I realized right after my dad passed, there was two options for me. And I think it's for most of the people, all the listeners listening out there, when you have something drastic happen to you in life, one or two options. You're either going to go up and you're going to use that as a fuel, or it's going to bring you down. And I knew I wasn't going to let it bring me down. So I wanted to be able to use what was going on as a fuel to basically just start working as hard as I can and start working towards the goals that I knew that I could achieve.
So once you get your license, that was a couple months later, right?
Yeah.
What was kind of the starting point there? Because I know you've kind of transformed from an agent to a wholesaler.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Yeah. So that's a great question. So just like every other young person at 18, getting into real estate, I was like, I'm going to get into this thing. Year one, I'm going to take over the world. I'm going to make all this money. But I realized I didn't know enough about real estate, even though I come from a real estate background and my mom had been selling real estate as an agent for about 25 years. My mom was what we call a part-time agent. So she wasn't full-time in the industry to be able to really give me the kind of help that I needed, but she definitely was able to help a little bit. But what I realized was I was focused on so many different things. When you guys get into real estate, you'll realize it's not just getting into real estate. There's shiny object syndrome within real estate itself, right? So even when you're a real estate agent, you're thinking to yourself, okay, I'm going to sell houses. Or I'm going to help people buy houses. Well, which marketing source are you going to use? Are you going to door knock? Are you going to cold call? Are you going to send text? Are you going to do direct mail? Are you going to get really, really big on social media and use that as a platform to start selling houses and building a brand? There's so many different things that I could have done and that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
That it was very, very hard for me to focus in, just like most of the people that's listening. And so I did it all. If you guys go back to my Instagram and scroll all the way to the bottom, you'll see videos of me when I'm 18 making TikTok videos, right? Talking about real estate. I was also cold calling. I was also sending texts. I didn't send mailers back then. Also sending texts, and I was door knocking my neighbors, telling everybody in the neighborhood, hey, my name is Marcel. I just got my real estate license. I wanted to let you guys know that I could help you buy or sell if you're in the area. And so everybody thought it was cute because, I'm 18 years old. Like I had no facial hair. I just looked like a kid. So they're like, all right, this kid probably isn't as qualified as, somebody else. But the main thing that I realized was it was about confidence, because one of those people actually allowed me to list their house with my mom. So I was the co-agent. My mom was the main listing agent because I had never listed a house. And they actually allowed us to list a property with $650,000. And we were able to get it under contract within 2 or 3 weeks.
Nice.
That's cool. That's so cool. And you got that deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's so cool, Marcel.
Yeah, so that was the first deal that I had ever done. And one thing I want you guys to take away from that is I was 18 years old, it was just confidence, literally just random confidence of me just deciding, you know what? I'm gonna go out there, I'm gonna have conversations, I'm gonna do the thing. So I recommend you guys to do the same.
Yeah, no doubt, for sure. So from the agent side, how long did that? Because I know you from an agent to a wholesaler. How long did that kind of take? Was the agent not working? Why did you switch from agent to wholesaler?
That's a great question. So a lot of things happened, in between this before I decided to fully dive into wholesaling. But to kind of expedite it a little bit, what happened was I was doing the real estate agent thing, but like I said, I was scatterbrained. I was doing all these different things. So after that one transaction, I didn't do another transaction for almost an entire year.
Mm-hmm.
And so around like the 10th or 11th month, um, that's when I decided to learn more about wholesaling. And the thing is, during this time, I'm reading a book a week. I'm just eating up knowledge, like I'm going through knowledge like crazy. And that can be good, but at the same time, it can be bad, right? Because if I were to go back and change something, I would have focused more on maybe reading a couple books multiple times instead of reading as many books as I did. That year, I read 45 books, right? You know,
Holy cow.
and yeah, so I read books on sales, business. They were all nonfiction books, sales, business, and people, right? Those are the three things I learned about because I was like, I need to know everything I can about people. And that's something that we can get into as well. But my goal was just to learn as much as possible. And I realized that maybe I should have focused more on a few books.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was 19, I got invited to this thing called the Teen Millionaire Challenge. And the Teen Millionaire Challenge, I honestly, I don't know how, I got into this thing, but I was on Facebook, social media all the time, reaching out to people, sending videos, just trying to connect with others. And I was a young real estate agent. So his name was Tim Mai. A lot of you guys might know him. He's a developer out of Texas. And he reaches out to me. He says, hey, man, it's really cool that you're a real estate agent so young. You should come to this Teen Millionaire Challenge. The goal is to make you guys a millionaire in a year within real estate.
Wow.
So we go to that. It was super cool. We learned a bunch of stuff about apartment complexes, how to find, fund, and analyze an apartment deal. And I'm 19, so I was very, very overwhelmed, but it was super cool stuff. One of the guys there who had this big wholesaling company, his name was Jerry Green. While I was there, he was like, hey, man, like you have the it factor. Like, have you ever thought about wholesaling? And I'm like, I've watched some YouTube videos and read some books about it, but I'm just a real estate agent. He was like, well, if you're up for it, I will move you from Maryland to Ohio to be my acquisitions manager, and I'll teach you everything there is to know about wholesale real estate.
Okay.
Me being a 19-year-old kid, I'm like, fine, let's do it, right? Why not? So I go to Ohio and I'm working for Jerry Green. And now this is where the grind really started getting crazy. And this is what really started to create my work ethic as a whole. What he didn't tell me, salespeople, right? What he didn't tell me was I would be cold calling from 8 a.m. until 8 p.m. every single day.
What?
Before, yeah, crazy. Before, I'd cold call for maybe 2-3 hours a day, make some videos, knock some doors. It was really not it wasn't anywhere near as hard as what I was walking into. So I get there and basically immediately it's like 3 days of training. And he's like, all right, now follow the script and just call people. Oh my God. So I'm calling my mom after like a week. I'm like, Mom, I hate this, right? Because it was terrible. I'm having maybe 60 conversations a day, right? But because of this, it was able to get me a lot better at speaking to sellers and understanding the sales process and all of that. And so I did that for a couple months. And then that's when I decided to leave and start focusing on wholesaling myself.
Okay. So it sounds like you learned a ton from just that couple months of cold call.
Baptism by fire right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because one thing I like when you said, kind of backing up a little bit, was like, And I even take this from you. You're like, because I'm always like, hey, I just want to read, 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 read. And one day you said to me, you said, dude, I'm tired of reading. He's like, I just want to take action. Like you said that to me, and I was like, wow. Like, that really stuck with me because I was like, you know what? The same thing with me. Like I'm tired of just reading and just taking action. So yeah, so people listening out there, like just sometimes it's not good to just read all the time and just get out there and take action. So it still sticks with me because I still want to read everything too.
Yeah.
But,
And you know, we're on a podcast right now, but like I want to get into like mental masturbation a little bit. Like when we're reading, we're listening to podcasts all of the time and watching all of these YouTube videos and listening to people who have done it, it starts to give us the feeling as if we're doing it or we're getting there, right?
yeah.
Us not doing the work and taking the action, it's not moving the needle. So one thing I'd recommend to everybody is 2 to 1, right? So if you're going to listen to an hour of a podcast like this one, go cold call or whatever it is for 2 hours.
Okay.
Smart.
It's a good idea.
I got into it opposite, Marcel. I went and bought real estate, and then I probably had 4 or 5 properties before I even found Bigger Pockets and any other. Like I think I read a book after I had 2. So I'm kind of the opposite. I knew it was what I wanted to do. And so I just kind of jumped in. So I'm a little opposite. That's funny. I never thought about it that way, but seen so many people in analysis paralysis as an agent, I get it. I think you're right. Like do 1 hour of learning and 2 hours of action. I think that's very smart. Even if would you agree if the listener were to learn, like listening to podcasts and books, and then spend an hour analyzing deals? I know that you've spent many hours analyzing deals, and that is taking action because you're going, will this deal work? If yes, now my next step is I'm going to go write an offer, right? So would you agree that's a good form of action, is just analyzing?
100%. Yeah, 100%. Analyzing is a form of moving the needle, right?
Yeah.
Because now you'll be able to analyze deals quicker. You'll understand your market and you'll be able to get better deals.
So speaking of that, like, so let's say there's an 18 or 19-year-old out there that wants to do what you're doing. Let's say it wants to start wholesaling. What's the first step of action that 18 or 19-year-old could take?
So there's a few. So we'll start with the first one. The first one would be, I would say, get a dialer, right? Well, let's assume you have no money. If you have no money at all, search for sale by owner in your county, right? And start calling these people up. Start having conversations. Now, keep in mind, you are going to be terrible. That's completely okay. That's completely fine because the reality is you took action to take the first step, right? And through that, now in the next couple of months, you'll realize that your growth is going to be exponential. But the first thing would be call those for sale by owners in your area. And you want to find 4 things when you're talking to these people. You're looking for the timeline that they're looking to sell the property. You're looking for the price they're looking to sell the property for. You're looking for the condition of the home. And you're looking for their motivation. We call those the 4 pillars. And when you're having these conversations, what you don't want to do is this. You don't want to say, hey, so what's your timeline to sell the house? Like, they're going to be like, dude, what are you talking about? Well, what's your motivation to sell the property? Like, you don't want to do that, right? You want to make it flow. You want to have a normal conversation with them. Let them know who you are. Like, hey, I'm a local investor in the area. I just wanted to have a quick conversation and see if I'd be a good fit to buy this one, right? Because the reality is typically we're not a good fit. Right? We're not looking for people who we can steal their house from. We're not convincing anyone to buy their house. That's not the goal here, right? We want to have typically we want to have someone who has a problem who we can bring a solution to. That's when we're going to get the best deals, right? So you have to first find out the difference between a prospect and a suspect. A suspect is that for sale by owner who you're having a conversation with, and you know the property's worth $250, their house needs some work and they want $300 for it, right? They're probably delusional. They probably won't sell that house, at least right now. And so they're a suspect. Don't spend too much time on the phone with them. But then another for sale by owner who you call, you're having a conversation with them and you're saying, I mean, it sounds like a nice house. What's got you thinking about selling this one? And then they say, well, honestly, I hate these tenants. They've been in the property for 3 months without paying, and I just can't deal with it anymore. Boom. Right? We have pain, right? We want to figure out what's the challenge? What's the issue? What can we help solve here? Right? And most of the time, people don't even get into that. They want to get into the numbers right away. But what you're doing is now you're creating a battle between you and the seller. You want to make yourselves on the same team. It's you and them versus the problem, right? Because you're going to be the one who's going to bring them the solution. So the prospect is that one who has some type of pain or motivation or true reason to sell outside of price. And so that's exactly where I would start.
I love that. I've bought a lot of properties off of tired landlords. And when I say tired, they are done. One property I bought, the tenants hadn't paid rent in 16 years. That
Jeez.
was a very tired and pissed off landlord. And I got a good deal because, like you said, I solved their problem. As an investor, I came in, I said, no questions asked. I'll take the tenants with the property. And they said, where do I sign?
Mm-hmm. So, Marshall, I want to talk about, because you take a ton of pride in not just like wholesaling, you take a ton of pride in like salesmanship. Like
Yeah.
you talk to me about just being a salesman and like how to speak to people, like let them talk to you. You even go into like your tone of voice,
Yeah.
like when talking to people. It's kind of crazy listening to you talk about it. Can you kind of explain like where you learned this from and just some kind of sales tactics that you use
Yeah.
that I think is pretty cool.
Yeah. So first, I just want to kind of get into like what sales is to me, right? Sales is basically a way of life, right? Because you're either selling or being sold. I recommend everybody to read that book, Sell or Be Sold by Grant Cardone.
Okay.
However you feel about him, whether you like him, don't like him, think he's an asshole, think he's not an asshole, that guy can sell, right? The reality is he can sell. And when it comes to sales, you'll realize that in any situation that you're in life, you are selling, right? Whether it's you want to have a conversation with your parents about, getting you a present, right? You have to sell them on your idea, or not going to college or possibly going to college. You have to sell them on your idea. So a lot of people look at sales and, business in that way is like some kind of like scummy thing or sketchy thing. But the reality is everything that you're doing, you're selling, right? Every single thing that you're doing, you're selling. So first, I would say understand that selling is a way of life, and you're going to need it for everything that you do. Even if you work at McDonald's, even if you work at Burger King, right? You're selling, right? When you first get to that Burger King window, I'm drinking some Burger King coffee right now. When you get to that window and somebody greets you with a nice tonality, say, "Good morning, how are you today?" Right? Boom, they just sold me in that second, right? Because now I feel good and I want to have a conversation with them because of the type of tonality that they had towards me and the type of energy that they had towards me. So that helps anything else moving forward easier. So I know you're asking, to get more into different like sales tactics and all of that. To start off, to lead off of that example I just gave with Burger King, the intro of your call, of any call, or when you just meet somebody is the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
If I go up to you guys right now and I'm like, "Hey, how are you doing today?" You guys are going to be like, "What the heck is up with him?" Right? But if I'm high energy, "What's up, man? How are you doing this morning?" Right? You are going to feel that energy. And now everything else that moves forward from there, it's going to be better instead of worse. And so what I always say when it comes to actually being on the phone with a seller or something, the first 3 seconds of your call buys you the next 3 minutes.
Hmm.
Really? Okay.
And it's the same thing when it comes to you meeting a seller in person or meeting anyone in person. Even if you're meeting another investor in person, if you come up to them and you're like, "Hello," right? They're gonna be like, "Ah, this might be weird." Like, this might not be a good conversation. But if you're going up to them, you have high energy, you're confident, people will feel that and it's going to radiate off of you.
Mm-hmm. So would you say like what am I trying to get to here? Like I feel like people are judgy. Like that's just the thing. Like
100.
people and those first 3 seconds, people are judging you. Like, oh, even by the way you look,
Yeah.
like they're judging you. So would you say that's pretty important? It sounds bad to say,
Mhm.
but I think it's pretty important.
Yeah. And I agree. I mean, everything when it comes to your communication is important,
Yeah.
right? And a lot of people like to say, especially recently, people have been talking about how like you don't need to wear suits, you don't need to dress nice. Um, but the reality is that's another way that you're selling, right? That's
Yeah.
another way that you're selling. And the reality is whatever that you put out, that's what people are buying, right?
Mhm.
So if you're looking raggedy and you're wearing pajamas or looking homeless, people are going to see that. And because of that, they're going to judge you, even though that's not something that we love to do. Human
Yeah.
beings are humans, and that's something that they will do. So when I meet up with the seller, you always see me in some kind of nice collared shirt or something like that.
Hmm.
I want to make them feel comfortable. I want to make them understand, without me even opening my mouth, that I'm somebody who they should be speaking to.
Yeah. Cool.
Marcel, you've done a lot of cold calling, way more than I have. Like, what's the toughest nut you've ever cracked? Like, what's one phone conversation where you were like, "I'm dead, it's over," and you won him over? Can you give us an example? I love to hear stories.
Good
So
question.
that's majority of the best deals that I've gotten. So the
Really?
money, yes. So if you guys take away anything, it will be this sentence, right? Please take away this sentence. The money is in the FU, right? And not the cuss word. The money is in the follow-up.
Huh.
The money is in the follow-up. So I had a deal. This deal was over on East 31st. If you're in Savannah, you know East 31st. And I was working this was before I even got to Savannah. I was working this seller for probably 60 days, which is not a lot. But the reason why this 60 days is significant is because me and Mr. Joe, we spoke every single day for those 60 days. When I first talked to him, he told me to F off. I'm a scammer. He hated me. And by the end of the conversation, he owner financed me his house, right?
Wow.
$20,000 down, payments deferred for an entire year. So I don't have to pay him a dime after that $20,000 down for an entire year. And so that just comes to show that in this game, in sales and real estate and business as a whole, you have to keep going. You have to keep following up. And if you just tell yourself that the only way that you can lose is if you give up, you're going to win no matter what. With me and this guy, Mr. Joe, I told myself, I was like, you know what? I don't care. I'm just going to keep talking to him, having conversations with him until I can work something out with him. And if I can't, it's okay because I would have been able to learn from him.
Wow.
And yeah, and so that was probably one of the best ones that I ever had. He literally started off cussing me out, telling me that he hates people like me. He gets hundreds of these calls every single day, and there's no way he would sell me his house. But we bought it 60 days.
Awesome. That is so cool, Marcel. I love that. That is so cool. That just gives all the rest of us hope, because nobody likes to be told to go, kick rocks or whatever. And you said, okay, I'll call you tomorrow." I
Yep.
mean,
Yep.
that takes some serious guts.
Yeah. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit of where you're at today and what you've been
Yeah.
up to.
Yeah. So now I've been focusing a lot more on creative deals,
Mhm.
right? I do some wholesales in Savannah. I'm buying a lot in Savannah. So if you guys get any deals or anything like that, I'd love to take a look at them. We're doing a lot of flips right now. We're doing a lot of buy and holds as well. When it comes to my wholesale side, we've been wholesaling a whole lot more creative deals as well as some cash stuff. But like I was saying, typically we're focusing on more buy and hold or flip kind of stuff. And right now, my goal for this year is to pick up 15 creative deals to hold. My goal is to have them all in the Savannah, Chatham County area. So if you guys are ever, dealing with a seller or there's a situation where they might want a little bit too much, feel free to ask them if they're open to taking some payments. And I'd love to get on the phone and I'd love to help you guys close that deal and pay you an assignment fee.
Well, and Marcel, I have to put this plug out there. Like, there are a lot of people in town, and some are our good friends, and I've sent them to you. Like, wholesalers really trying to learn and get better. I've been like, you got to meet Marcel. And can you give us a little bit of information? I know you've been able to work with some of these other guys and you become a team and you help them close the deal. Because sometimes someone else might find the deal, but they need someone like yourself with your sales skills to close it. Can you talk a little bit about how you've done that?
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, one thing that I'm doing and I'm focusing on, especially here in the Chatham County, Savannah area, is there's a lot of opportunity out there, but a lot of people just don't have the experience to be able to tie it up and get the property closed.
Mhm.
One of my favorite deals, and Julie, you definitely do send me a lot of people, and we have a lot of conversations and a lot of different leads and deals going on. But one of my favorite deals was this guy. His name was Aiden, and I think you guys know Aiden very well.
Love Aiden.
He was a 16-year-old, and he had posted in the Savannah group, the Facebook group, and he said, "Look, I'm 16. I want to get into real estate. Don't know where to start, but I'd love to help." A lot of people commented and they're like, "This is super cool," you know? And so I reached out to him and I had a conversation with him and I said, "You know what? Let's meet up." Met up with the guy and realized that I thought that he had what it took to basically start putting in the work and eventually get his first deal. And so he started cold calling, not as often as I was, not 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. But, you know, he was in school. So he was calling for a few hours every day after school. And then I decided, I said, "Well, Aiden, do you want to have more in-person appointments?" He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "You know what? Let's go out and let's go door knock." And so we started door knocking. I was teaching him the ropes of what that door knocking process looks like. He was able to get a deal and get paid $10,000 at 16 years old. And so, you know, that's one of the best deals that I love the most, just because he's 16. Like, that just comes to show that if a 16-year-old can do it, why can't we do it? You know, why can't anyone else do it?
Oh yeah.
And you're never too young and you're never too old to get into this business.
So what were some of the things that like you immediately started with Aiden? Was it kind of just start with the basics and then
Like I said, right? So the FISBOs, that's where he started. He started with the FISBOs. And the reason why I tell people to start with FISBOs is because it starts to get your feet wet. Majority of the time, these people are suspects, right? Because if they really want to sell their house and they're not looking to pay a commission or anything like that, typically they're not in any kind of distress. They're okay with, you know, letting their house sit on the market for a little bit longer and different things like that. So he started off calling these people. Why? Because I wanted him to understand that you want to disqualify first, right? You want to disqualify first. The goal is you want to make sure that their best option is to sell with you. People get confused. They'll hear me on a sales call and I'll literally ask people, I say, "Well, have you thought about just listing it with the realtor?" And they're like, "Marcel, why would you do that? We want this house." And I'm like, no. I'm here to solve problems. She does not have a problem that I can solve. Like, Julie is going to be way better at solving her problem than me, right?
yeah.
But if she needs to sell fast, she needs to get out in the next 2 to 3 weeks. She has some annoying tenants. She has some type of pain or motivation. I can help.
Mhm.
I can help. So what I had him do was start calling the FISBOs first, like I was saying, to figure out who's a prospect and a suspect and understand the difference between the two. And then after that, he started cold calling a giant list, right? And there's multiple different lists that you can get. And that's a whole other podcast we can get into,
Yeah.
different marketing sources and all of
We'll have
that.
to jump into that though.
Yeah, but so he was calling in what's called a vacant list, meaning properties in Savannah that are vacant.
Oh,
He was calling those people and basically giving them a call and say, "Hey, I noticed this is out of the blue, but I noticed that your house over on 123 Main Street was vacant. Have you ever thought about selling it?" And then they'll let you know. They'll say, "Yeah, you know, I thought about selling it, but, you know, da 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 da." And the main thing that you're looking for is pain and motivation. Because look, there's multimillionaires out there who have 30 houses that are vacant and they don't care. It doesn't matter. It's not affecting them at all. And those people, they might not be the perfect person for us to work with. We might not have a solution for those people because they're like, "Look, I don't care if this sits for another 5 years. The taxes are cheap to me." Right. And I'm cool with the appreciation. There's people, like, I've talked to so many sellers who I'm like, "Why don't you just sell this thing?" But they don't care because it's not big enough of a problem.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's exactly where he started. He started cold calling. And the main thing that I want you guys to get when it comes to starting, you know, trying to deal with sellers and get good deals is you need to find the motivation.
Mm.
Need to find the motivation. And once you do, you have to paint them a picture to understand exactly how they're going to feel once that pain and situation is gone.
We got together for breakfast the other day, the three of us, and it was wonderful. And we just happened to be in the parking lot, and Chandler was there. Chandler has his truck that he's going to sell. And I was fascinated by the way you looked at him selling that truck. So can we do a little, I really would like for you to discuss that, because you sell real estate. You said you would have sold his truck the way you would sell real estate, and that's creatively.
Yes.
So can we get into, I love talking deals, so forgive me, but can we get into this truck situation? Chandler,
The
tell
Facebook
Marcel
Marketplace lead.
tell Marcel what you've got and what you would like, and I want the audience to hear how Marcel thinks about it.
Okay, so I have a 97 F250. It has a 7.3 power stroke, which is the engine in it. They don't make them anymore, so those are kind of like gold in today's market. They're continuing to go up in value. That's why I got it. Facebook Marketplace, I flip trucks and cars here and there and boats, whatever. So that's the truck that I have. Really good I mean, it's in decent condition, let's say that, not good condition.
It runs well.
It runs well. It's for those older trucks, I mean, they get beat up. They're used as work trucks, but for a work truck, it's in decent condition. So, but I would just typically sell them. I like doing it in cash. I buy it for 7, sell it for 12. But Marcel came up. He's like, "Dude, you need to wrap this," and I was like, "Well, I don't want to wrap it because that'll." We were thinking wrap like as in new paint job. And I was like, no, I don't want to wrap it. It's most people like these originals. And then I'll let you jump in here and you're like, no, 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 like wrap it. And I'll let you kind of explain how you would wrap this.
Yeah. So we wrap houses, you can wrap cars. And so
Yeah.
Explain what you mean by a wrap, Marcel.
Yes. So a wrap is when, let's say, Chandler's truck, he has $7,000 into that truck. He's going to basically wrap around a loan around this truck, right? So if he bought it for 7,000, instead of him just selling it for 12,000, he can now sell it for 15,000, but with a loan. So the person who's buying it only has $2,000 down, for example. They put $2,000 down, and then they pay Chandler $1,000 a month for the next 20 months, for example, or the next 24 months. And over time, Chandler's making way more money because he's not taking it all right there and then. He's taking installments, and he's also charging them interest on the whole thing. So if he was going to sell it, if he bought it for 7, he was going to sell it for 12. He was going to make $5,000 profit. If he sells it on a wrap, right, or owner financing, right, or owner financing, he's going to get a down payment, call that down payment $2,000. He's going to get a monthly payment every single month. And depending on what terms he sets, only a certain percentage of that money is going towards principal, right? Meaning the total purchase price. So if he's doing a wrap, the reason why he's incentivized to do it is because he can charge more money, right? So he was going to be able to sell it for $12,000 cash, but now he may be able to sell it for $20,000 or $24,000 or $25,000 cash. The reason, not exactly cash, but over time, the reason why he's able to do that is because this person has a problem and he's creating a solution for it. Just like the whole business that we do. It's the same thing. This person's problem is they don't have $12,000 or $15,000 up front, right? They make good money though, but they do have $2,000-$3,000 up front that they can give Chandler. So they'll take that $3,000. They might use that truck to make $1,500 a month. And then they're able to pay Chandler that $1,000 a month. And to them, it makes sense because they're able to profit and make money off of owning and having this vehicle.
Yeah. No, it's a good thought for sure. It was funny. I've tried it with a golf cart, but it didn't. I don't think golf carts is something that people really, I guess it's not enough to do.
People with poor credit, though, what an advantage to offer those terms.
Yeah.
And I've gotten a ton of loans on real estate, right? And I always read, the bank statement, when they give you your loan, if I pay 300,000 for a house, I'm going to ultimately pay about 589 after 30 years, right? Because of all the interest. And so you're really paying a lot more than that sales price. And so that's what you're saying for Chandler. Like instead of getting cash today, make even more by
Yeah.
giving that person terms. So I thought that was really fantastic. And you've sold houses on terms this way,
Yeah.
right, Marcel? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I worked for one of my mentors. His name is Andrew Schlag for a little bit. And what I did was I sold a bunch of lease option properties, and we sold properties creatively as well. And it's exact same situation, right? We're giving people the opportunity to be able to get a loan on something that they wouldn't otherwise be able to. So we're helping homeowners on their path to home ownership. With these lease options, we're able to get 20, 30, $40,000 down on a house, as well as charge 10, 15, 20% more than market value, because these people weren't able to get typical financing before. So we're going to finance them, and we're able to charge a little bit more because we understand that we're taking a risk by doing that.
I like the concept of that for sure.
And there was just a deal that me and Chandler were just talking about that I had bought up in Richmond Hill with a 4% interest rate. And right now interest rates are at about 7%. We just picked this one up at 4%. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Our payment is 1107. Our payment's 1107. We also have a payment to the seller because there was a note that we took over, as well as a portion of her equity that she's going to be seller financing back to us. So we also have to pay her every single month. But through that, our total payment's a little less than $1,300, and we're getting about $2,200 a month for that house with a total entry of $30,000. So you're $30,000 in it. You're making, call it $7,000 in cash flow every year. It's pretty good deal. We got about 60, 70 grand in equity in it as well.
Yeah, it's like 22% cash on cash return. That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
And he's in Richmond Hill.
What was that?
He was asking if it was in Richmond Hill. I think it's in
No, I
Pearson.
said and he is in Richmond Hill, which
Oh,
is
right.
a
Yeah. I've
crazy.
got that one in Richmond Hill, and then we've got another one that we picked up in Pooler with an even crazier rate. But the main thing is there's creative deals out there. There's a lot of them. And to just give you guys a quick bonus round, I'm going to tell you guys how to find creative deals that nobody's going after
Oh,
Let's hear
in
it.
any market. So look for people so you'll need PropStream, or specifically PropStream, to find this data, or people or agents in your market, and you can ask them and have conversations with them. Every MLS is different. Some give you certain data, some don't. But with PropStream, what you do is you go to your market. For example, our market is Chatham County. When you go to Chatham County, you look up people who have bought a property after 2020 with a VA or an FHA loan. That is also on the market currently. The reason why you want to look for those, right, is because if they bought with VA or FHA in the past couple of years, a lot of the time they don't have any equity. So if they don't have any equity, they're on the market, a lot of time they're going to be writing their agent a check at closing, which is terrible. You bought a house and now you have to write a $15,000, $20,000 check to these agents at closing. It just doesn't make sense. But a lot of agents out there, they don't know any other solutions for these people. So you can come in, give their agent a call, and have a conversation with them and see if they're open to any creative strategies. And the reality is, a lot of the time, if they bought it in 2020, 2021, you're getting these super low interest rate properties that don't have a lot of equity in them, or little to no equity. You're able to pay the agent. You're able to put cash in the seller's pocket when otherwise they would have had none. And you're able to now take over their mortgage and now have that property without a credit check, no banks involved, none of that stuff. And you're able to now own that property. That's exactly similar situations with almost every creative deal that I've bought.
So what are the numbers on this with this, Marcel? Let's say it's a $250,000 house. It's a VA loan. So you have assumed VA loans in the past. You've taken over the payments. You don't move the loan to your name. You just take over the payments.
Right.
Let's say it's a $200,000, did I say
$250,000
house. There's no equity. And then the agent fee is going to be what? 12 grand on that.
Yeah.
So how do you run your numbers to know that you're going to cash flow on it?
Yeah. So the first thing is I need to figure out exactly what their payment is and what their interest rate is. That's where we first start. If we figure out their payment's $1,900 and we can get $1,800 for rent, then we know that this probably won't be a good deal. But I don't want all of you guys to write those off because I've sold deals that do not cash flow, that are creative. And the reason why that is because there's a lot of people out there who have tax issues, right? And they rather just buy that property to depreciate, right? They're okay with losing $100, $200 a month in cash flow. I'm not. I don't want to lose money, right? But some people are. So I want to make sure that it cash flows, right? I want to make sure that everything works out. Let's say that payment on that $250,000 note is $1,300 a month. If we can rent it for $1,500 or $1,600, I'm calculating it the same way that we would calculate any other deal. So if I can make, call it $200 to $300 a month, how can I make my cash on cash return on this deal make sense? So if the agent wants 12, but I know the seller deserves money, I'm not going to just give the agent 12 and say the seller gets nothing. I'll say, hey, look, I can pay $15,000 down. I'm going to pay your agent $5 grand and I'm going to pay $10,000 to you. So my entry is now 15 grand. I'm able to make $300 a month in cash flow. That's a good enough deal for me. That's something that I would do. But at the same time, when you're buying these deals, these no equity deals, especially because a lot of the creative deals that I'm holding, my best deals, they have equity in them. But the ones that don't have equity, you want to make sure when you buy, you're preparing yourself, because I'm not telling everybody to buy no equity deals. You want to make sure that you are able to hold these properties during a downturn, right? During a downturn, you know, if you're buying these properties with no equity, in 2 years from now, you might be in negative equity, right? But the reality is this: can you afford to hold it during this downturn? Let's say you have problems with the house, maintenance issues, CapEx issues, you're not getting as much as you expected for rent, all of these different things. Can you still continue to hold the house? If you can, and you know that you will be, then it's fine. Then it can be a very, very lucrative and good deal for you. So that's how I'm analyzing my deals when it comes to that. And I'm not only looking at one exit strategy. Long-term is one exit strategy. A wrap is another exit strategy. A lease option is another exit strategy that we use. What else? We can do what's called a subtail. If you guys know a wholetail, this could be something that we take over subject to, and then we list it back on the market, or we sell it to another retail buyer, right? Maybe the listing agent who they were working with was a bad agent, right? And we know someone, you know, I know Julie has a bunch of people who are looking for deals and different things like that. Maybe she can help me get the property sold. Maybe I can make a little bit of something on it. So there's multiple different exit strategies that we can use. It's all really going to depend on the deal. If it's a no equity deal that doesn't cash flow, you can make a lot of money from it by wrapping it, just like we were going to wrap Chandler's car, right? Because instead of us charging $250, we're going to now charge the wrap buyer $279 or $289. Our interest rate, let's say it's 5%, we can charge the wrap buyer 7.5%. Let's say our down payment was $15K, we can now receive $25K.
Love that.
Right? So these are ways to be able to make money off of deals that people think there's nothing we can do with them, but there's multiple different things that we can do.
Okay.
So, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I'm a buyer's agent. I have a lot of investors, and they're always saying, bring me creative deals, Julie, bring me off-market deals. And there's several that have looked at on-market deals and then freaked out about little things that are wrong with the house. So do you see that, in that everyone wants these creative deals, but are they really, how do you prepare them to go, you understand, you're taking this over, you can't request repairs. You're not going to be able to inspect it. It's not a perfect house, but it's a great deal. How do you like talking about it and people getting excited is one thing, and then actually closing on it and taking it from there is another. So I'm very interested in your subtel example where I as come in, let's get it sold. Mr. Buyer understands the deal. He's taking over the pay. Well, he's now paying you. You're going to pay the payment, yada, yada. Take us through how you get the buyer to the end of that.
Mhm. So there's a multitude of different ways that we could go about that. So the first one is, I mean, I'd explain all of the basics and everything like that to our subject to buyer. Main thing is though, when I'm selling a property to someone, if they don't know too much about subject to, I'm connecting them with multiple people. I'm connecting them with a transaction coordinator, right? Because the transaction coordinator works very, very closely with attorneys who they have all the paperwork and they can break down every single piece of the paperwork with you very, very, very well. And then I'm also connecting them with an attorney. I'm connecting them with an attorney in town who understands these processes, who understands all of these different creative strategies, and they can ask them any questions that they want. And so the main thing that I would say when it comes to these buyers is, you want to make sure that they do their due diligence. And you want to make sure that, because there's a lot of people even in the creative world who are doing these incorrectly, right? They see it and they're like, oh, I'm buying a subject to deal. This is non-recourse. And then they're defaulting on people's payments. That is wrong. You should not do that. That is not something that you should do. And I do not condone that in any way, shape, or form. But the main thing is you need to understand when you're taking over this person's loan, it's just like when you're raising private money or anything like that. You should pay even more attention. You should be really, really on point when it comes to something like this. And so the main thing that I would say is they need to understand the risk. They need to understand that the bank at any point can decide to call a due on sale. Does it happen? Typically it doesn't, right? But it does happen. It happens, but it usually does not. So that's something that you want to keep them aware of as well. And what else? You want to tell them basically every way that they can protect themselves. Just like in a normal purchase, you want to go get an inspection report, right? So you know exactly what you're walking into. So you're not like, you buy the property and they're like, oh no, I have to spend 12 grand on a new roof. Definitely want to get an inspection report. Main thing is you want to talk to your attorneys. You want to talk to the attorneys that, let's say, Julie gives you or your agent gives you as well. And you just want to make sure that everything is buttoned up and tightened up. There's also multiple different subject to agreements that people don't always talk about. And this is something that I think will be huge for your viewers. There's what's called a performance deed, right? And if you want to make sure your seller is protected, right? Julie sells houses and helps people buy houses. So if she wants to make sure her seller is protected and they have to sell on subject to, they need to have a performance deed in there. What that performance deed says is if you do not pay the payments after a certain amount of time, you lose your down payment, you lose every monthly payment you've made to the payment thus far, and you lose the house. The house goes back to the original seller. So one thing that I do to make sure my sellers are protected, as well as keep me honest, and anybody, if I decide to sell the property subject to or anything, very, very honest, is we have a performance deed. If we miss 1 month, a full 30 days, the property is deeded back to them. So that's why Pace and a lot of people in the creative community, what we do to avoid, that ever happening, because sometimes people forget different things like that, is we have what's called a third-party servicing company who we pay, right? We pay the third-party servicing company. They take it out of our account every single month. And then the third-party servicing company then pays the mortgage. And so they pay it early. Like my mortgage was just paid on a bunch of my creative deals today, and I do that just because I want to make sure that I'm more than on time, and a lot of these deals that I have too are hybrids. So sellers are carrying a seller financing note as well. So they're excited for that $100 check or $200 check that they're going to receive directly in their bank account every month.
It's so funny, Marcel. I have 4 creative deals that I have, seller financed, and I'm the same. I always pay. I tell them I'm going to pay on the first, but I always pay on the 31st. And that means a lot to them. And I've had a lot of feedback from them. Like I never have to worry about you paying me because it's always there a day early or for sure on the first. And I like that. I really like that. That's great information.
Yeah. And Julie and Chandler, they run hundreds of properties that they manage. And it's the same thing with the tenant. They probably love the tenants who are paying every month on the 29th or the 28th very early, because they're like, okay, you're trustworthy. You're someone who's, going to stay on the ball.
Yeah. So Marcel, here's what I want to do. This is funny that you brought up the tactic that you're using with the VA and FHA. I know you want to do some live calls, right? You cool with that?
What, some live calls?
Live calls.
So I've gotta jump off here at 12:30.
Okay.
I don't know if we'll be able to do some live calls today.
It's
But
We'll do a part 2.
yeah.
because I mean, there's so much that we can get into, just like we can get into data, we can get into because the data portion is huge. We didn't even get touched on floor foreclosure. We can get into that at some point. We can get into direct mail strategies. We can get into geofencing.
There's a
We
ton.
can have a whole bunch. We can have like a full marketing one. And then we can add, me doing live calls to that as well.
Because what I wanted to do was there's actually a property on Zillow right now, and it's been on the market for 218 days. And this is in Alabama. A buddy sent it to me. He's like, "What do you think about these?"
In Alabama?
And, in the description, it says owner has a 2.7% interest rate VA loan that can be assumed. Beautiful home that was completely remodeled. And it's been sitting forever. So I was like, maybe we just call this agent and see how that goes. But
Sure.
yeah, I thought you mentioned that. I was like, oh, that's such a good idea to call this house.
What's
But
the number? I'm gonna call him right now.
You ready?
you want to call him right now? I'm gonna send that number.
Text Marcel the number and let's call him live. Let's do it. We're here to learn. Well, I'm so excited. Let's get a house in Alabama.
That'd be funny if you got it.
200 and something days. I'm very curious to see what's going on.
218 days. And the first line is 2.7% interest rate VA loan that can be assumed. That's the very first description.
The problem is assumable loans and subject to are different. I bet you a bunch of people who want to take it over subject to have been pitching that, but they're like, nope, you have to assume. So when you assume a loan, the difference between assuming a loan and subject to is when you assume it, the loan is now in your name. You're going through the same underwriting as you would on any other loan, but you're taking it over from their lender.
That makes sense.
Right? So subject to, the loan stays in their name, nothing changes, and we are taking over that note, subject to the existing mortgage.
Well, as an investor, I'm not afraid of an assumable loan. I'm not afraid of going through the underwriting. Like that doesn't bother me at all. Like I'd go after that. I would think all 3 of us would still go after that.
Yeah.
So I sent you that listing, and if you just scroll down, you'll find that agent's number, or just click on the listing.
Phoenix City, Alabama.
Let's just call them and chat for a minute, Marcel, and let the listener, hear just that initial call to the agent. Do you have time for that?
Yeah, let's do it.
Did you find it?
Yep.
Mailbox is full.
He said, please text me. I'm in an appointment. Hey, Richard, I'm interested in your property and your listing on Lee Road.
By the next time we record with Marcel, he's going to own this house. I want to just make a prediction for our listeners today. Marcel, thank you so much for your time. Just for Chandler and I and the listeners to get to just hear how your giant brain works. Like, it's been a pleasure. And please, we would love to have you come back very soon. I want to give you a shout out. I know you have some plans, so I'm going to push you a little bit. You want to do something really cool with your social media. So please give our listeners your social media. And I want to encourage everyone to tune in because Marcel has some really cool stuff coming.
So on Instagram and Facebook, it's Marcel Sunday. On TikTok, it's Real Estate with Sel, right? And one thing that we're going to have coming up within the next month or so will be what's called a Savannah Power Hour. And what we're going to do is 1 to 2 days a month. We're still deciding. We're going to dial sellers live. Right? You guys are going to bring in leads. We're going to teach you guys how to close sellers. We're going to close sellers live, and we're going to have conversations with people. And everybody's welcome to come. It's going to be super cool. And if you want to start to figure out what that process looks like and figure out what it takes to close a seller, what that process looks like, the follow-up, all that kind of stuff, you have to be at the Savannah Power Hour.
Yeah.
So get ready for it and feel free to follow me, guys. If you guys have any questions, feel free to shoot me a DM.
And Marcel, when you say real estate with sell, it's sell would be CEL for Marcel. Is that right? I just want to clarify that.
Yes, real estate with CELL.
Man, thank you so much.
Thank you. I really appreciate being here.
Thank you. We'll get you on in a couple months, hopefully.
Yeah,
For
if you'd like to come back tomorrow, I'm sure the listeners would be down. So, and
Yeah.
listen, we're honored to be your friend, Marcel, and Savannah's a lucky town to have you in it. And thank you so much. It's really been a pleasure.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate you guys for having me on. You guys are awesome.
All right,
Thank
take care.
Thank you for listening to episode 44 with Marcel Sunday. What did you think, Julie?
Incredible. I talk to him quite frequently, and I still learned 14 new things today. Like Marcel, he makes me a better investor, and he thinks differently than me. And that's why I really like to hang out with him, because the worst thing I can do is hang out with people that do things the same way I do. I'm not going to learn or grow. The way I'm
Yeah.
going to get better at what I do is hanging out with people like this.
Yeah, for sure. He's a good person to have in your corner, and highly recommend like following him on social media and just reaching out to him, because he'll reach back out and say, "Hey man, I'd love to help." So just a great dude in general. But we appreciate you coming on, and please like, comment, subscribe, share to everyone you can think of, and we really do appreciate y'all listening, and we will see you in the next episode. Thank you.
Bye-bye.